From your perspective, Brad, what makes the approach that Josh is using in his classroom significantly different from what we see in industrial age or traditional classrooms?
Okay. Well, Josh does a lot of good things. He gives kids meaningful choices. And so not everybody's going to do the same activity at the same time. Where one group of students might work on a set of a problem, and another group will work on something a little bit different. They're still covering the same standards, but they're getting there in a different path at a different time at a different pace. So that's what I like to think what Josh is doing differently is it took him a while to get there. The meaningful choices at a different time and a different pace is how he gets there.
Why is that difference important to you as his principal?
It's important that every kid feel value in their education. And when kids are forced to do the same thing at the same time, they lose the interest, they lose the value. If they can be connected to what they're doing, then they appreciate that education that much more. And it makes my job as principal easier, and they take value in it. So I want every kid to feel value. I want them to see what they're doing is very important.
So as you think about how McCook Central, in particular how Mr. Schmidt has gotten started with this customized approach, what would you say was the starting point, or how did you ramp into this customized learning approach?
The starting point was that we weren't satisfied. We weren't happy with how things were going. We weren't satisfied with making everybody do the same thing. And Josh and I had a lot of conversations, and it was Josh to say, I'm not happy with what I'm doing in the classroom. I'm going to do something different. And I basically stood back and let him experiment, try some different things. We started with the flipped classrooms, and it progressed from there into what it is now, which is really, it's a system where it works for every student. And in a school our size, when we have small classes, working in an individual basis is the best way to go, because every kid can feel valued and they can grow from there and they can go at their pace, and it works well. So what got the whole ball rolling was Josh and I sitting down and Josh saying, I'm not happy with the way things are going, and we changed. And Josh did all the work. Josh did all the change, and I just basically supported him and did whatever I could to help the process out.
Okay. From your perspective, what has been the biggest challenge or even obstacle to getting started with a customized learning approach?
There's a lot of challenges. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But the resources, materials that go with it, time. If I could just give Josh more time in the day to do what he's doing, it would make his life a lot easier. If I could reduce his preps, if I could give him more paid time in the summertime to prepare, then we could really move faster than what we are now. And if I could do that with all my teachers, reduce the amount of time that they have to do to prep, we could really be flying with our MCL. But it's just a lack of time and resources that holds the school back.
Okay. So how has this customized learning approach changed the role of Josh as a teacher?
Well, as Josh would tell you, he's not the focus of the classroom. He's there to support. He's there to encourage and make sure they stay in pace. But the lesson, the classroom is now not focused around the teachers, focused on the students. So you change that perspective.
Relates to the next question then. How has it changed the role of the students, the learners?
Puts responsibility on the students. They need to take ownership in their education. They need to take ownership in what they get accomplished each day that they're in the classroom. It's not Josh pushing them down the road. It's them going at their own pace and them deciding how fast they want to go down that road on their own.
How have students embraced that, or have you seen evidence of them embracing that?
Once they understand the system, I understand that Josh starts with them as 6th graders. So by the time they leave as 8th graders, they understand the system, they understand what he expects from them, and they embrace it. They appreciate what they are able to do in that classroom. So they take ownership with it.
What have you seen or observed as the reaction of other teachers to the approach that
Very positive, very positive. I think teachers, when initially we did a book study with the the Mass Customized Learning book study, and teachers were really hesitant, and Josh was one of them. But once Josh kind of took the lead on some things, and teachers have seen it, teachers have talked to kids about it, and they are starting to open up to it. And it's having a sprinkle effect around the school as far as teachers kind of ramping in on their own way to Mass Customized Learning.
So how would you describe the reaction of parents and learners to customized learning?
Overall, the parents have been very positive. Every year, though, I have one or two parents who are unsure about it, and they're always new to the system. They want that textbook. They want to see which problems are assigned. They want the very structured, traditional model. Once they go through it for a few months, and then they understand the process, and then they're very appreciative of the process, and they really enjoy it.
What evidence would you offer that this customized approach is impacting learners and learning positively?
There's no good hard data at the moment. Basically, I would say it's an individual, student by student, how far they're moving in math, watching their grades go up, watching the amount of assignments being accomplished compared to the traditional model. I would say overall it's been very successful. I would say our students are going into high school math better prepared, and that's going by interviews with students, interviews with our high school math teacher. So I'm hoping down the road that we can back the data up with some good test scores, but with the transition into the Common Core and the Smarter Balance, we just don't have that data yet.
Based on your experience, what advice would you have for principals, teachers who are considering a customized approach to learning?
Start slow. Start with some really concrete baby steps that you know will be successful. I have a teacher right now. I just did an evaluation today. She is letting kids go at a self-pace, but she's not really giving them meaningful choices yet. But it's a rampant. So she's doing the pace first, and then when I visit with her, we'll work on giving meaningful choices, where we give 1 or 2, 3 options to get there, opposed to everybody doing an exact same thing. Right now, she's letting kids work at their own pace, but they're all still doing the same thing. So just keep it simple, make sure it's good, easy, concrete things that you can do, and then build off of that.
Based on your experience, what is an anecdote or an experience from the customized learning implementation that was particularly meaningful or impactful from your perspective?
As a parent, I watch my son, who's a junior now, have Josh as an eighth grader in Algebra 1 at the time. That's when Josh was really getting into the flipped classrooms. I watch my son watch his videos, fast forward, rewind, fast forward, until he understood the material on his own at his own time. That's when it really was an aha moment for me that this is a good idea. And then also as a parent, I watched my 7th grader last year as a 6th grade be challenged finally in the math class, where before he flew through elementary, piece of cake, never with stress. Josh finally was able to challenge him and make him really work at it. So he wasn't flying through the material, he was going deeper into the material, and that was really great to see. So, and I've also talked to students individually about that too, where some students want to run with it, and Josh will slow them down and make them go deeper into the material. Where some students are struggling, he will slow them up a little bit more so they understand the basic concepts. So it's always an individual where I see kids are progressing at their pace and they're finding success. When they find success, that's what we're shooting for.
You've clearly empowered Mr. Schmidt in a way that has caused him to be successful and feel like he has your support. Speak to me a little bit about the support you have in terms of superintendent, Board of Education. How do they relate to customizing, and what is their perspective?
Well, I'll start with the superintendent. Dr. Schwartz has been wonderful. He's been a champion for MCL. He promotes it. It was one of the reasons why he came to our school and took the position as superintendent, because we were pursuing MCL. So he has been a strong supporter, does everything he can to support myself, support Mr. Schmidt. Our school board's been wonderful. I still remember when we did the book study with the school board, I had a board member say, why aren't we doing this now already? Why are we waiting to do this? So the board has been very progressive, just been wonderful. Every time we give them an update on things, they're wondering why are we going faster. So they're ready for it. Our superintendent's ready for it. It's just a matter of getting our staff properly trained and giving them the proper amount of time to be where we need them to be.
Brad, obviously you have participated, been supportive in terms of developing what we're referring to as the South Dakota cohort for customized learning. What do you hope would be a key value of that particular cohort for you and others who are getting engaged in customized learning?
With any cohort, you want support. You want to be able to call somebody up and say, hey, we're trying this. How can we do this better? And you get some feedback. You need feedback, you need support, and to be able to share resources. If we can, we all don't need to recreate the wheel. If we can work together and create a common curriculum that we can share among schools so students can have those meaningful choices, it will save the teachers time and save each school some resources. I'm looking to share resources, bounce ideas off of people, and to just help promote it around the state.
Okay. I think my last question is really focusing on small schools. You're a fairly small school district, and you've taken on something that I would identify as really transformative. What advice would you have for other small schools about stepping into this kind of an opportunity?
Educate your stakeholders, talk to your community. We started by having some community meetings, and they weren't widely attended. I mean, but we did have a few people here. And we talked about it, we sold it before we did a lot of anything else. And then start small. You're not going to be able to transform your entire school within a couple months or within a year without some major resources. So I would really have that strong communication with your parents, your community leaders, your business people, and your school board, and build the case for why we need to make this change. You'll hear things, well, things are going pretty good now, why would you want to change? Well, it was good enough for me, why would you need to change? And you have to sell it for the current times that things need to be different and we need to be more progressive.
Brad, if we would come back to your school 5 years from now, what would you hope we'd observe relative to customized learning and the implementation?
I would hope that you should be able to walk into any of my classrooms and see meaningful choices being offered by teachers. It's still going to be a school. You're still going to see lockers. You're going to see kids visiting with each other. You're going to see kids visiting with teachers. But the overall structure of each individual classroom is going to be where kids are working at a pace that's comfortable for them, but they're still being challenged. They have ownership in their education, and they're being progressive in how they meet their goals and their learning targets.
Realize that you need to find the right balance in terms of being the champion for Josh versus being the champion for a whole bunch of faculty. But how much have some of these other faculty members had the opportunity to do observation in Josh's class?
Not a lot. And that's a hard thing to do in-house. It's a lot easier to go out of town and visit a teacher, but to do it in-house, it's not comfortable for Josh. And
he would contend there's not anything to see.
No, and it's exactly right. And it's more about the setup. I think we need to do a better job during our professional development time and let Josh break down how he prepares for those things. Because if you go out there now, it looks like he's just walking around the room answering questions.
Which he is.
Yeah.
Because
You know, the preparation conversations need to happen more than the observations do.
Well, you're real smart about how to go ahead and take those next steps, but are there ways to feature him and also feature some other teachers, so it isn't all about him. But,
Well, and like I said before, with Beth Eichmann, I did her evaluation today, and those kids were self-paced. She had everything prepared, but they were all doing the same things. They were just getting there at different times. So I'm hoping I can lead into that and build upon it. So
I went to their presentation at the Thai conference last spring, and I came away with that very impression. And I didn't, I just told them good start, because it is a good start. But they need to take that next step.
And you got her, and you got Tracy Chase, who is not offering meaningful choices. She's just doing a great job with project-based learning. And that we just need to build from it. And I could go through each teacher and tell you some great things they're doing. We just haven't put it all together yet.
Well, but that may be a safe way to go ahead and be a champion for him, too, is everybody's got something good to share. But I think you're right. I think if they could see the structure he's established and how it's impacting learning.
And each subject's going to be different. How he does it in math and how we're going to do it in English classes is going to be different. You know,
but the same.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
So we really wasted a year waiting for Empowered to take place. And that's kind of where we had to take a step back, and Josh and I had a great conversation leaving the systems change about some next steps, and we need to get some things going. Kind of what I want to do is make a master plan about what our next steps are and build upon.
Another idea, and this is premature, I have not been back to Watertown since I did interviews there in September.
I want to visit with Mike,
and that they really have learned a tremendous lot in the last couple of months. Because they're doing it in all 4 subject areas in secondary, it might be a great place to go visit so that they see that structure, but it's not at McCook Center, that they see it somewhere else.
And Josh and I talked about that we need to have those conversations with Mike, and then do some follow-up with Kevin down in Harrisburg, and and see what kind of
safer. Everybody learns.
Yeah, But you mentioned that cohort. I would love it, even with our 3 schools.
Amen.
What can we do to help each other out? So we're not all doing it individually, And Kevin was very kind in saying that we could have access to his Schoology materials, which would help us for next year.
Well, all I can do is keep claiming these things. You really helped us. Josh helped us with that systems change morning session. And I would tell you the evaluations indicated that the morning part was much stronger than the afternoon part. And the morning part was the sites doing presentations, and the afternoon was good people. Marcia and art people demonstrating technology. Well, they need that technology piece, in all honesty, and I think it was valued, but they needed that authentic experience. But we're going to design then a one-day session before the systems change for the Thai conference with a similar flavor.
Okay.
And then we definitely are getting excited about what we can do in late June in terms of, and there's no doubt that McCook and Watertown and Harrisburg will be the feature schools in terms of demonstration, but I want to make certain we've carved out time for even you 3 to sit down and
that's what we need, how we can do next steps. So I mean, because everybody's got their own flavor how they're tackling this thing, but there's still some common things that we can share.
Use that. Nope, we're not going to do that. That is just fine.
Okay.
So, well, thank you.